live. Welcome back to the Weekly Roundup, the place where we unpack what's been going on in the yoga and the wellness world and what we've been coaching our clients through. Every week, there's just a fun, there's always a trending thing that's going on. Like, it seems very seldom like we have one studio owner or one conversation. It's like these waves of what's happening. I'm going to pitch over to Bridget to start, because Bridget's your subject matter, I think, is interesting in that this is a major change in the industry. And actually, it's another example of how, without starting us off talking shit, how like this industry is behind. Like, the fact that it's taken this long for this to even be a conversation coming up is fascinating. Anyways, I'll let you kick it.
Sure. So I had a client reach out just this morning, actually, and she has a meeting with this company that basically like does her SEO. I'm putting that in quote marks for anyone who is not watching. And she pays them once a year. It's about $1,300 a year. And they like do this service for her, and she has her annual meeting with them, and they are to decide if she's going to re-up. And so she was asking, she said, I think it was really smart of her to ask. And I think that it's a question I see all the time in all the forums and among all my yoga studio owner friends. They're like, it's like this mysterious idea that no one knows what it is or what it means, but everyone feels like they need it. And what this client said was a fear that I think everybody has. She said, I'm considering not re-upping, but I'm scared of what will happen. And it's like, so many of us yogis, I think, are not technically inclined. And I think that, so it's sort of like, yeah, this like mystery thing. And we're like, will my internet collapse? Like, everything, what will happen if I don't do this? And I totally resonated with what she was saying. And I totally get it. I'm not at all laughing at her. I'm laughing at myself and whatever. But anyway, I have thoughts, but I've talked enough. So what do you guys think about it? Terry's got little money flying on her.
Terry's got all the emojis. I'll let Terry or Carol, I'll let you guys go first.
I mean, I'm not an SEO expert. I know basic SEO with a website and know the little tips and tricks, but I have capacity, like most yoga studio owners, to stay on top of that particular subject and be an expert at it. So yeah, it is a big question. I don't know the full answer, and I don't know what this company is doing for them. Like, are they showing in some metric form like that they're worth this $1,300 a year? I think that would be the first question I'd ask, and go from there.
Well, I do have a quick answer for you. Okay. That she attached a report that they sent her with like website views and stuff. But because she's used them since the beginning of her business, she has nothing to compare it to. So to me, I'm like, great, that many people visited your website, but like, how do you know that wouldn't have happened, with or without it? So that is the answer to that. They do show her a report, but it's kind of meaningless.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, yeah, I was gonna say, so many people came to the website, but do they track any conversions? I mean, it's like, yeah, you could have 100,000, 200,000 people a month visit your website, but if no action happens, isn't it better to have a more compelling like sales page, like we've talked about, is to get people to click to buy something? Then yeah, they found you, big whoop. But if they're finding you not buying anything or not doing the thing, then is it even worth it? Josh?
Oh, I was just gonna ask, yeah, to your point, Terry, like what is the ongoing action that they're doing that directly correlates to website traffic? That would be the question. Because like the report sounds like they send them a Google Analytics report and they're like, cool, like here's search terms that people found you on and then clicked and went to your site. That doesn't mean that they did anything necessarily.
Well,
Going back a step, that fear part, I think this is a real one. When it comes to SEO, it's it's a zero-sum game. First off, SEO is not even the conversation. We'll change gears on that in a second, but it's a zero-sum game. It's one of the few things out there where if I'm winning, you're losing. It's competitive. If I'm number one in search, that means someone has to be number two. There can't be two number ones. So that happens through an accumulative effect over time, which means in theory, unless stopping hiring these guys stops an ongoing action that is working, or they go in and like fuck things up in the backside of your website, which would be real bad, then not using them anymore shouldn't like make your SEO tank. It shouldn't have, there's no like, it's not an ongoing regular action. They've got the keywords on their website. They've got their schema set up. They've got all the stuff Carol does on the website, like the basic tags and everything set up appropriately, and that's working and they're getting traffic. That will continue to be true. So the question would be like, what are they actually doing actionably?
Yeah. Can I actually go back a step because I have never understood the term zero-sum game. Does that mean that there's only one, like you're either winning or you're not winning? So you're
Yeah, only one winner.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. No, it's a good. We should define that. Make sure.
Okay.
I don't say, we don't use that term in business, actually, like in our coaching. We don't use that often because most of the time people behave like it's a zero-sum game, and it's not. It's like worrying about your competitors in your market in a city of 800,000 is stupid. There's enough for both of you to win. And me losing doesn't make you win. So there is no zero-sum game. But SEO specifically for a specific search term in a market, that is different because it has to rank things. I think where SEO, where it is a little bit, I wouldn't say risky, but where you can see a difference is the bullshit that like Yelp is in court for still to this day, where it's like if you're paying them, then they push you up the line, and if you're not paying, they would actually suppress you and stuff like that. But general SEO doesn't work like that. The bigger, go ahead, Bridget.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, you know, for my studio, we have never paid anyone to do SEO, but I like definitely have thought about it. I've looked into things. I've been like, is this something, you know, and I will say we are not the winner of that zero-sum game. Like we are not at the top. I have tried many things. But you know, but we still do really well. And we have other things that like, and this is what I would say to this client and anyone worrying about SEO, there are tangible, like relatively easy things you can do that increase your visibility on things like Google, etc. And those things are all things you can do yourself once a month that make a huge difference. So
I was going to say, I never paid anybody to do SEO. I just had a decent website where it was easy to purchase my intro offer and find out what the classes were. I don't know what you did, Carol, but it was like I wasn't really all caught up in the SEO stuff. But and then to your point, Bridget, one thing that I also coach to is, you know, like you said, there are things you can do very easily to optimize and get more visibility on the internet by just simple things like Google My Business. A lot of people just don't do anything with Google My Business, and Google likes it when you engage with Google. And Google My Business is free. I mean, are you, like you said, make a task once a month, go in, update the pictures. Most people never look at their Google My Business once they set it up. So go in, put your intro offer as a promotion if you have an event or like a YTT or retreat or whatever, put that on Google My Business. You know, rotate pictures, things like that. Make sure that everything's up to date. I remember that I used to get from Google, like when the holidays were coming up, hey, are there any changes to your holiday? And I would go in and make those changes for the holidays and things like that. So those are like really simple things you can do to just keep your presence up there so that when people are looking for you, you're easy to find. Carol, what were some of the things that you did or you see your clients doing?
I mean, I think you're totally right, Terry. People don't even look at that. Like they don't even go to look and see what happens when I Google myself. And what's funny is that Google will start pulling pictures that it thinks will be, are relevant in some way. And there will be pictures from 15 years ago or like instructors that are no longer there. And so I think you're right, just staying on top of it in even some kind of cadence, like check on it. Oh my gosh, I don't even know. When we started, there was was Google even a thing? I don't even know. It was a long, long, long time ago. So, you know, um, I don't even think we thought about SEO at the time that we had, but we did stay on top of updating our website too, keeping it fresh and making sure the information there was good because that helps the search, it kind of picks up the new things and shows you as an active business. Um, I don't know. I don't remember what else we did, but I think it's just being on top of like your game in all these different areas, just refreshing the content where you need to.
And I remember the other thing, I was on a webinar about websites a while back. And the presenter was talking about making sure like the information matches, like everything's always in the same order, like address, phone numbers, emails, all that, so that there's congruency, because that
Yep.
helps with people finding you. So yeah, like these are all little tweaks you can make on your website that you don't have to, I mean, once you set it up, you either pay someone a little bit to do it or you do it yourself. And the other thing interesting, I met with a client a couple weeks ago, and they were talking about, we were looking at different websites and stuff, and they shared with me this one website of someone in their community, not quite within their local market, basically. And I guess it's a wildly popular studio. And you know what their website is? One page, the schedule page. That's it. You go to their website, it's sign up for class. That's it. There's no pricing, there's no nothing. It's just like book your class, and that's it.
Yep.
One-page website, and apparently they're just doing gangbusters. I mean, sometimes if you get to that point level with your business, that's awesome. Most of us don't quite have that luxury, but I did really think that was really fascinating. All they had is their schedule page. That's it.
There's nothing else to do then. Like if you're optimizing for conversions, there's reason to think that works. I think that search is the only other consideration for why you would do more on a website. It's search or conversion. People do read your website. It's not that information isn't consumed eventually. It's just that you could get that information to those people in a different way. And so I don't know. I think, okay. SEO, here's the crash course. Like what it used to be, and what I would check with a firm that's saying that they do SEO. Let me say this first. If any firm is charging you money in 2025 for search engine optimization, I would press them really fucking hard on what they're doing, because I bet that they're just stealing money from you in most cases. If they are not coming to you unsolicited and actively talking to you about generative engine optimization, GEO, then fire them. Like they're dead already. And I'll talk about that in a second, because SEO, as we have historically known it, isn't a thing. The worst case scenario is like the super old school practices of like, we're going to write a blog for you every month and stuff it with keywords to try to have more of the word honey yoga San Diego on your website. Like that doesn't really work. Like that's kind of dumb. It's just fluff content. It's like half the internet is just bullshit because of stuff like that. So that's what's going away. So for SEO, generative experience software, yeah. For SEO, the things you can do, Like there's the basic stuff, like your title tags, your H1 tags. You can actually use the appropriate keywords. That stuff's all true. But the stuff that we see actually moves the needle is that Google business profile that Terry already said. Like that fucking matters. And think about for yourself, if you search a studio on a phone, where do you look? You look in the Google Maps stack. Your brain goes there first. So that matters more. You could be third page deep, but first there, which is hard to do because one correlates to the other. But like that would probably get you a better result from a business standpoint. So like that's number one. And then the other thing is your actual UX and the speed of the site. That stuff matters. It sounds funny, but when we talk about local search, you can really win here. There are a lot of local websites that just load like shit or fail to load, or because you've got like, because you're using, what is it, Wix? Because you're using like Wix and then you're trying to integrate your wellness living, and those two are, Wix sucks in general for this, and then you add something like wellness living and it double sucks, and it's like your schedule page just can't load at all, or you got to click 4 other times. Like that will penalize you major. So comparatively, you go to my site and it just goes boop, schedule is up. Like big difference. And then Terry, you mentioned it too. It's the consistent citations, the consistency of like your name, email, phone number, address being exactly the same and consistent everywhere that it can be. Your website, Google, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. Those are like the easy things to do first. And then the one that people don't think of for SEO that to me makes sense to actually put action towards are reviews. It looks good on Google Maps. If you get, and it's not just getting a bunch of reviews, it's like consistently getting reviews. If you're a place that is consistently getting higher reviews, what Google wants to show you, you're the place that's active, is what that says. And you're also the place that people give a shit about enough to even go through the effort to write something. And then if it's positive reviews, they're going to promote you.
Yeah.
And that's something that's very actionable. So to me, that's the starting point. The GEO part, this is about AI. I mean, I don't know, just on this call, when's the last time you Googled something versus ran it through an AI to ask the question?
I still on my phone, I still mostly Google.
I never do. Zero times.
Like
If I'm going to Google, say it again.
Like what kind of questions do you mean? Like,
I mean, if you're asking most people, and this is, we're still early on the trend, but this is what's happening. And it's why if you go to Google, it gives you that AI answer on the top, because they know they started shitting their pants when people were going to ChatGPT instead of them, because they haven't been dethroned in decades at this point, right?
Mhm.
Most people are choosing an AI response to a question that they would have over doing the search part, which makes sense. I mean, like, at the risk of making myself sound as lazy as shit, like I don't want to scroll through the page and interpret which link to click and then go find the answer and do that 4 times. And SEO and marketers ruined it. There's a saying, marketers ruin everything, because you'll get your top 3 to 5 results on some search queries are these weird things, such as, a really good example would be like, let's say you search best mirrorless camera to use for vlogging. Your top 5 hits are going to be those aggregate sites that review a bunch of cameras, appearing like they're like a legitimate site who's actually gone through and done a review, when really every camera on there is a sponsored link by someone else and the whole thing is horseshit, and they've just won on the SEO game. So it's not a trust place anymore. And Google in SEO circa 5 years ago wasn't a search engine. That was the wrong word. It was a trust engine. So they've lost all trust now. Where AI comes in is now it's the trusted source, whether you technically trust it or not. But it's like, you just get the answer to the question. And if you don't understand, you can respond back in the conversation. You can get to the bottom of what you want. That's where this is all going. Now, for local business, that doesn't translate as directly as you might think, but from a volume of people ending up clicking to you. Because if you look at the AI thing that shows up at the top of Google or even in ChatGPT or whatever, it'll put the citations for where the information is coming from. So the action now, if you really wanted to go hard on it, would be to create content answering real life human being questions that they're fucking searching in your area that have to do with your business that you're the expert on, putting it on your site and structuring it in a way so that the AI actually uses it as the source to answer the question, and you'll get a click through from that. That's actually the game.
Just an update. I just Googled best yoga studios in San Diego looking for the AI answer. And it was weird. You know, usually it has that like thing at the top that's like in a slightly different color that kind of gives the answer. But I was thinking I hadn't seen that when I ask for like those business specific things. And then it asked me for the first time, do I want to view this in AI mode? So I said yes. And guys, great news. Honey Yoga was on that.
Here we go.
It's 6 of 7, but it's still on the list. And it says, known for its welcoming and comfortable environment, excellent instructors, and personalized attention. And it's right. That is what we're known for. That is what we're proud of.
What's the first one? Who's the first one? What's it say?
Pilgrimage of the Heart Yoga, which I do know. They are actually very close to us. Known for its welcoming atmosphere, diverse class offerings. They are known for that. And knowledgeable instructors. I would say that's accurate.
Right. So here's the thought process though. Where is that information coming from?
Reviews.
That's coming from reviews, and it's also coming from your website. Like, your website is how you communicate to the world what is, quote, real about your studio. The reviews are the confirmation of it. And the AI is aggregating that information, because what's interesting about that answer you got, it gave you a list, but it also gave you a describer. Yeah. If I'm searching for best yoga studio San Diego, what does my brain actually want? A fucking list of yoga studios? No, it wants a list of the best studios and why.
Yeah.
I want to be able to tell the difference, because I might see the top 3 and be like, I don't want diverse classes. I want super hot yoga classes. Like, so now I'm going to filter through those options faster. If that's not, it's a different decision-making thing, but it's what our human brain wants more, which is fascinating to me, because if you don't have that information, then you're going to default to convenience, which means location and price, which is why since forever, and like if you look at the Mind Body app and all this other shit, Mind Body app would be a good example of this. Rather than trying to show you the place that you're looking for or putting any features that would do that in there, they show you the deals, because 1, they make money when you book through the app, so they want to promote that. And 2, because that's the cheapo way to hit the checkbox on what people's brains want, which is the best deal. But really, I would opt for a more expensive class if it was better for me and if I could discern that ahead of time. So like, that's the shift that's happening, is that list of like, here's what you need to know about this and why it's interesting and does it sound good to me, versus just, I won an SEO, so I showed up at the top and we have the best deal. I think that the consumer level of skepticism is higher than it's ever been, and it is and is about to fucking skyrocket. So from an SEO standpoint, what do you, practically speaking, what could a studio do other than the SEO stuff we talked about, is start to create, this is all about content. I've been talking about this for too long now.
I want to talk about something about that.
Create content that answers questions. Like, not theoretical questions, real questions that your students have. Real questions about, it's the stuff that you send in the email circa 2012, where we're like, how to survive a hot yoga class. It's that piece of content. Except do it 10 different ways and make it actually good, so that if someone was to land on it, it's not just a blog post for the sake of SEO. It actually fucking answers the question and it's media rich and whatever else. And then there's some technical structuring part of it, but the AI is going to pick that up.
I want to ask, I'm going to shift gears here for a second. When you said content, I'm sorry that content you posted in YC earlier this week with the, what was it, the Lord of the Rings hairstylist?
That was hilarious.
Seriously, I thought it was horrible. I mean, it's like, are you like tongue in cheek? This is great content, or you really think it's great content?
It's so good. It's such good content, Terry. Seriously.
To me, it's just like, to me,
Carol, did you see it?
I did, and I said, I commented brilliant, and then Terry's like, what the fuck? So,
I went, seriously?
I guess I got it.
Carol will have my back. I know Carol's got my back on this. It's brilliant content.
I don't see it. Explain to me how that is brilliant. I don't see the brilliance. I see just, to me, it just seems idiotic.
Wait, where was this? I have FOMO. What's happening?
Well, here's the question.
I posted it in the Facebook. I posted it in the Facebook
group.
Yeah.
Because
for anyone who hasn't seen it, like Bridget, if you're having FOMO right now, go find it in the Facebook group. If you're not in the Facebook group, join the Facebook group. What are you doing?
Yeah.
But
what are you doing? Why aren't you there?
It's a hair salon that's purposefully doing this like hand filmed jump cut. And they're talking it's pretty dumb, but like they're talking about getting a Lord of the Rings haircut because the woman who's the stylist kind of has a Lord of the Rings haircut.
And
it's brilliant. Yeah. And they leave in all of the, like, she screws up the line and she's like, I mean, and she just like does it again. They just leave it all in. The fact that Terry, that you're like, this is stupid is why it's so brilliant.
Yeah, that's very funny. I would definitely, I would go to a place that had that.
It must be a generational thing because this boomer does not think it's
like you have to get that she knows she's being stupid. Like you have to get that, and like she's making fun of another particular kind of like person and thing, like in a nice way. It's not like I think it's perfectly nice, but like I do think you have to be like a little bit extra online to get that fun.
I posted it.
Wait. Let's unpack that statement. You need to be a little extra online. So basically you're telling me I am out of it.
Well, no, I'm congratulations if you're not online as much as I am. That's good for you. I'm happy for you. I wish
extra personality. Terry, if we started you a Terry Fry channel, we could blow it up real fast. It would be really easy.
Yeah, I have no problem making a complete idiot of myself. You guys know that. So
you have all the extra that you need.
In fact, last night I did a Story Slam Dayton. I got up and told a story on stage last night, which was super fun.
Nice.
Are you guys familiar with the Moth Project?
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of like local that you do these, and they're called Story Slams, and they give you a topic and then you tell a story based on that topic. So last night's topic,
that's fun.
It's super fun. The happy five. There's some general rules. Basically, they happy 5 minutes. Blah blah blah. Anyway, it has to be first person, personal experience. You can't tell a story about somebody else. And so last night's theme was chemistry. Yeah. So, and the one thing they asked that when you come in, they give you a little slip.
And you talked about your dating life.
I talked about. I did.
Called it.
I talked about.
Terry, I know
you called it. I talked about chemistry and the different types of relationships and how we don't talk about the dark side of that. And I said the bad boy syndrome. It's like sulfur and oxygen. It ignites, it sparks, it's awesome, but then it just burns out quickly and you're left with nothing but ash and a broken heart.
Brilliant.
Amen, sister. Terry, for my hero, I really want to tell a moth story, but I'm too scared. Like I want to go to a story slam. I want to tell the story about my dog specific. He's dead now, but
just go and show up.
I really want to, but I'm too scared. Anyway, off topic, but that's so cool, Terry.
None of this is actually off topic. This is what I'm talking about. Like none of this is new. This is like the human psychology. It's just culturally what this looks like from a business owner perspective and what you should do, that changes over time. And so, and I don't mean in a trend way, I mean in like what's normal from a consumption standpoint. So content creation right now, like that's the game. And it's why I'm not saying social media. Like we've got to get off of the, when we say create content, people say, well, then like what, like post a reel? And we're like, yeah, but that's just the distribution channel. The content itself is in fact the thing that matters. So the story slam component of it, like that's what we're interested in. And so how do you relate that specifically to a business? Like imagine if you did story slam style content about your studio. Like that's a little bit of stretching it out here. Or going back to this post, what's genius about it is like simple editing, good concept, hilarious in that it's real, but like not polished, not super scripted. One shot, one line, next shot, next line, put it together as the edit. So you don't have to remember anything. You don't need a teleprompter. And it shows personality. And who do you want to do business with? You want to do business with personality. Who do you want to listen to up on stage? Terry spinning chemistry into dating, you know? Predictably, maybe, but like it's content. That's what we want. So that's where the participation should be. Go ahead, Bridget.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask, okay, so if it's not, I mean, and I know you're not saying don't do a reel, don't do a blog post, but like where on our website should we put this where are we putting this content on our websites?
Yeah, if we talk about content from a generative engine optimization thing, this is like FAQ stuff. But expand the concept of the FAQ from being like a little tiny drop down on your homepage, although you should definitely have that on your homepage now. That would be something I would add that's a little bit unique, to like going old school with blog posts. You just wouldn't call it a blog. You wouldn't technically set up as a blog. You might have a whole page that answers a question, because then it gives you the space of the whole page to answer that question. And we talked about this a long time ago, but the other thing about this content creation thing is this idea that, let's suppose I come up with a good content concept and I'm making an important point and I do it in a creative way, so it's a very consumable piece of content. Once that effort is done, there's not just one, and let's say you make a video, a 1 minute video, 2 minute video, whatever. And then it goes out and it gets 1,000 views in your local market, which is great, because I don't know if you ever stood in front of 1,000 people. Like that's a lot of people. So we're not talking about go viral and get 1 million views. That's cool. But from a local business standpoint, who cares? You want 1,000, 2,000 local views. That would be crushing it. How likely are they the only people that content is relevant for? Totally unlikely. So even just, and how likely is that the only place that someone would be interested in that content? So the game is content in that you answer a question that someone actually has conceptually. That's now a blog post on the website. It's one, if not multiple reels or short videos that you make. It's a long form YouTube video that you make, which then you can cut pieces out of. Like just from one concept of content, when you go through it, you can create 10 other pieces of content. And that is how you become the expert in a specific subject matter. Just because it's the easiest example for us. Like if you're a hot yoga studio and you want to be the expert on heat plus yoga, like just that one pillar piece of content, there's 100 major points to be made, and each one of them can be duplicated into 10 other versions of it or whatever. Like we don't have a subject matter problem in a business. It's just getting it straight in our head about like, what should we talk about? And when we talk about marketing is memorization through repetition, part of that is saying the same thing over and over, but the other part is just staying on the same subject matter over and over and saying it different ways or a different angle or different detail, but it's you're repeatedly talking about the same thing. If Honey Yoga always talks about the perfect vinyasa, and you have 52 pieces of content that are created around that in the next year, that's one a week for a year. Like, are or aren't you going to be the subject matter expert in how to do the perfect vinyasa locally? Conceptually, you are. And the creation part, Terry does this brilliantly. Terry goes for a walk, Slack messages herself, takes the transcript, runs it through an AI to get the first draft, edits it, and that's the content that she can post. That's Terry's process. For me, I conceptualize it. I talk with the GPT that I built for myself back and forth, script it out, and then film a video, take the transcript of the video, and use that to create the other pieces of content. Carol might be someone who wants to just sit and write personally. Like, that's the point. Is it doesn't matter. Like, there's no one way to do this either. You can find the process that feels organic to you. Like, how are you creative? Maria, one of our people as well, she has her own blog. Like, that's her creative process, is she likes writing the blog. But you could turn all of that stuff into other things as well very easily.
Great. Well, I have
Next.
a lot to share with my client.
Oh, shit. I guess let's make some content. Here we go. Okay, let's move on from SEO. Generative engine optimization. For this person, Bridget, that you're talking with, I would ask them, what exactly are the ongoing things that this company is doing, and prove that they equal traffic. Showing me the traffic I get on my website doesn't matter. Prove that what you're doing is equal traffic. And is it still growing? If we just stayed the same month over month over month, then that doesn't show anything. And then generative engine optimization, that's where I would be paying attention right now, just in general.
Tell them to save their money and buy whiskey.
Say that's $1,300 that could go right in here,
right in your pocket,
or towards the summit,
or to show. Yeah, that's great. Or like to show.
That's true.
It, or to get a better bookkeeper, or like all this stuff. I just
hire a front desk person.
Yeah, amen. Yeah, exactly. So anyway.
Well, or even imagine if you, sticking with this content subject, like $1,300. That's not a ton of advertising dollars, but like if you put $500 a month for 2-3 months behind some ads, like that's, in terms of eyeballs on your business. So it's hard to say. Maybe this company's got a really good answer. Maybe they're like, we do this on the weekly basis. Here's proof that we take this action and equals this website traffic. Like, if they can show that all, then $1,300 for a year, that's not actually that much money for a business. So no problem. But I doubt that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I'd be really, I mean, now I'm into the drama. Now I want to know. You better report next week.
I will report.
What's happening, guys? Yeah. Terry, what else is happening?
I have to come off mute. I picked up my brother just texted me, totally random. He asked me anyway. I used to make really good tips back when I was an ice cream person back in the day. And he said, did you really used to make this much money on a Friday or Saturday? I said, yeah. I said, well, in today's dollars, that would be $388 that I would make on it. So back in the late 70s, I worked in an ice cream parlor, and we also did, we sold soups and sandwiches and stuff. So I was a waitress. And on a good Friday or Saturday night, I could bring home over $100 in tips. And that's after giving 30% away, 15 to bus and 15 to fountain. So that's pretty, and my brother says in today's dollars, that's like $388. Anyway.
Your brother's bored.
Well, yeah, he's not bored. He's taking care of he part-time caregiver for both his 4 grandkids. So he's not bored. Anyway.
Oh, okay. He's distracting himself. He's like,
I
gotta research something.
I gotta research something. So this is like kind of polar opposite, going in opposite direction, because this does come up, and particularly in hot studios, but even in regular yoga studios, because even in non-heated studios, when you get particularly when the weather gets warmer and people are moving and flowing this and that, people will start to sweat. And so this came up the other day. A client was like, what do I do? There's a client we have, and he has horrible body odor. So much so that people have left the room during class, and I've gotten email complaints about this person. So what do I do? How do I approach this? You know, because obviously we want, and my first question was, well, do you have, and they don't have showers, because this happened at a couple of studios I've been at, and they just kindly asked the person, hey, take a shower before class, particularly if they're coming in. I remember this one studio I taught out, there was this young guy, probably his 20s. He'd come from work. He was a construction worker. So he was, not only sweating, but dirty sweaty. So they just said, please take a shower. And he would just come in and take a shower before class. So what are and maybe it's BO, maybe it's some other type of behavior that they may or may not be able to control. John. So what would you guys do? What do you do? What are some suggestions there so that we're still being empathetic to the person, but also recognizing that, yeah, if you have people leaving the room and emailing you and complaining about it, then there's something you need to do. Josh.
How long has this person been practicing?
I don't know. I don't know.
I don't know. I'm curious what Carol, you and Bridget have to say about this, but I think question one is, how long has this person been practicing? Only because sometimes this is a problem, but it's only a problem right now. Like, give it a month. It's just tough it out and try to whatever, give it a month. Because when you start sweating a whole bunch, if you're toxic, then you stink.
Yeah.
Once you sweat for a while and you start getting in shape, then you don't stink. That's one of the first things that changes.
Yeah.
In fact, like, one of the major signs of health is the ability to sweat a lot and not be super, super stinky. I mean, in real time, when the sweat dries on you afterwards, you stink, whatever. But
Not
and
necessarily.
and everyone's a little bit different, but just, it's like, that's why when you're sick, if you have a virus or a bacterial infection and you stink, like, your body changes that way. So I just think that if you're in a public gym, this would never be a conversation. You would just kind of avoid this guy who stinks a little bit. So I don't know. I wonder if it's someone who's newer and it's like, we just need a minute for this to calibrate. That's just my first thought. I don't know.
I mean, we definitely had to deal with this, and for the longest time, we only had 90-minute classes. And I think that's part of it. It's like you said, Josh, you're not at a gym where you can avoid somebody. You're going to be stuck next to that person the entire class. And I mean, sometimes it's like not even necessarily a negative odor. We had somebody that was like in an Ayurvedic oil something or other, but it was so strong that they would come in and you could smell it across the room. So it's a matter of like, we would just pull them aside and very gently say, there's a very strong odor, not positive or negative. There's a strong scent, because odor might be even, or smell like weed. Yes, that's come up actually a lot recently, because of, the prevalence of all the, I don't know, dispensaries here. Or yeah, booze. Booze, I feel like comes out in a different, I don't know, smell to me. Or onions even. Like if you have a lot of garlic or onions, you can kind of smell that the next day too. So, I mean, it might be that you just do need to wait, but sometimes it's a necessary, conversation to have, and it's a gentle, hey, I mean, I think the thing is, it's a very delicate place because I wouldn't want to have this as a studio owner to be like, I'm having so many complaints about you. But at the same time, we need to know it's not just coming from me. This is something I wouldn't bring up to you unless I had had multiple people say something. So that's the tricky part, I think, in that conversation is like, your people are complaining about you, but I don't want you to know how many, or I don't know that I don't know. It's a weird, it's always awkward, but you have to say it.
Yeah.
Sometimes.
The other thing too, it could be medications, because sometimes certain
That's
if you're
true.
on a medication and you start to sweat, it can smell, you can smell. So there's a lot of reasons why. And I think my advice to the client, these had come up a couple of times, was just to approach them from a place of empathy and say, hey, is everything okay? Are you feeling okay? Coming from a place of compassion and empathy, and just bringing it up and saying, how can we help you? If you don't have showers, at your studio, maybe some body wipes or, you know, something like that can help. I knew they do that with like flight attendants. Sometimes we'll do that if someone gets on an airplane, and particularly if you've been traveling for a long time. Anyway, so it is, I think you're right, Carol. If it is a issue and it's more of a longer term, and that's a good question I can ask the client that, Josh, is, you know, you do need to, it's one of those awkward conversations.
Sometimes it's the equipment too. Like, is it just their mat is a really
Yeah.
junky old one and the sweat is now permeated in there and the mat stinks, or their clothing, you know, it's like old something and it's holding that stink. So yeah, I think
There
proposing
was,
some
yeah,
options.
you just reminded me, there was a time we had a client, and same mat, same towel, same pair of shorts, like practice all the time. And they were not, they were kind of, and plus they had the, when you would lean over, they'd have the sheerness in the back, right? Because they were getting so thin. So one time he left them at the studio and they were so gross. And I threw everything away. I just threw it away. Just threw it away. And then he called and said, "Hey, did I leave my stuff behind?" And I said, "Oh, I'll check with the teacher." And then I said, "Yeah, we've checked it." And of course I did. And I said, "Oh, no, I'm sorry." I said, "Maybe you left it on top of your car." And it flew away. He goes, "Oh yeah, you know, I've done that before." So to this day, unless he's listening, he probably doesn't realize that
Oh, Terry, you're getting hate mail after this one, dude.
it was just so gross. Anyway, I don't know why. I just thought about that. So anyway,
I think that this is a good, like, the question is this something that has to happen? Like, does this conversation have to happen? And if so, because the reason why it would is, to your point of someone wearing the oils or whatever else, we would have that the yoga room is a scent-free space. So if you came in having sprayed yourself in perfume, like, it is actually really strong. If you're in the middle of a yoga class and you're beside someone, that can be off-putting. And so we would address that. So this is a little different, but there is a line somewhere where you would want to address it. I just think that this is good practice for that hyper empathetic private conversation. I would probably start it by saying, like, "Hey, this is a really uncomfortable conversation. As the owner, it's my job to have it. It's been brought to my attention. You know, I'm concerned. I'm really concerned that this might come off as offensive, and I do not intend it that way at all. Here's what's happening." Like, really pre-label the whole thing. Here's what's been brought to my attention. Like, can we be open to talking about how we might adjust for this?
I like the idea of like sort of saying, whenever I go into a conversation that I know is going to be, it has a high chance of being like hurtful or sensitive, I like to go in as though I am not assuming I know anything, like to just go very much. And so I like the idea of being like, maybe it's your mat, like maybe it's like the specific material you're wearing on your body, whatever it is, are you open to investigating so that we can mitigate this? But yeah, I think it is, I think that's so interesting, the idea that I never even considered that it was a conversation that didn't have to happen. So I like the idea that it doesn't have to happen, but I do think it probably does. I like, if someone was reeking of perfume or whatever, like, I'm a big anti scent. I don't use scented products at all. They're hormone disruptors. Like, it's just, it's tough. And especially if you're like breathing deeply. So I do think ultimately I have never actually had to have this conversation. We don't have a hot studio, and we have almost all women, and women just don't, like, I think because their bodies are smaller, but like I notice this when I'm on trails, if a man passes by, I always smell whatever they smell like. But if a woman passes by, I don't tend to smell. I think they just don't have as much like surface area to.
Oh, I think this is a different smell. I smell every woman that goes by.
Oh, so maybe
I
it's
was
just.
just gonna
I think this
say,
is a guy-girl biology
Yeah.
thing.
Totally. Yeah, probably.
I can smell Carol from here.
But
Me too,
here's
but
the
that's a
thing is
different
that
issue.
I don't know, maybe I smell both, men and women.
Yeah.
I'll notice scents
I
of
think-
both men and women, both positive and negative, and both, so.
I mean, I'll smell someone if they like have like doused in perfume if they go by me on the trail. But yeah, like I always notice that like I always get like a waft of smell when I go by a man, and I never
You
notice.
better be careful there, Bridget. They're putting out some serious pheromones for
Get
you.
your pheromones away from me.
They're looking for a mate. They're looking for someone.
Get them away. I do not need any of
And
that.
your husband might have to like rein you in sometimes.
Yeah, I've got enough pheromones to deal with at home. I don't need anyone else's pheromones.
Chemistry.
Area. Yeah, exactly.
Chemistry.
I was just thinking, because my son's 14, so that like
big time.
he comes home from basketball practice with like 3 of his buddies, and it's happened a couple times where like they're young and so oblivious. They like come in, they're laying on the couch, and I'm like, get the fuck off my couch. Like, you guys all reek. You have to go in the pool or shower before you can sit on my couch. And they're like, oh, okay. Like, they smell like a dirty sock. So, but like, they're a good example where they don't really take it offensively. Like, they're just like actually oblivious to it. So I do feel like that's the other element here is, do you need to have the conversation? If yes, approach it with the like labeling up front, but really consider the fact that this person may be completely oblivious to this altogether.
My husband does not have a sense of smell. Like, he cannot smell.
Right.
So he's actually very paranoid about how he smells. He's constantly like, do I smell? Do I smell? Do I smell? But not someone could also not have a sense of smell and not be as paranoid as Greg. So yeah, I think that was another thing I was going to say too, is like, you do not know. He probably honestly doesn't know that he smells like that, because wouldn't he probably do something? Yeah, he did.
Right. If you smell bad, you notice it on yourself at some point.
Or not.
But that's the point. It's like, if it's your own smell, no one knows what their own house smells like until you go away from it for a while. Like, it's just what it is. I was thinking about some friends that I have in Vancouver, traditional Punjab Indian family. Like, they smell it. This is super stereotypic. They smell like curry because their house smells like curry all the time, because their grandma makes the best motherfucking food on the planet. And I try to find an excuse to go over there and eat every time. But like, that's the other angle that has come up in a studio, is the complaint of someone smelling, but it is legitimately not an objectively offensive smell. It's just their smell, and there's like nothing that can happen about it.
Yeah.
That's where it gets very tricky, because then you're not probably having a conversation with that person. Then you've got to go the other way and be like,
You just got to accept it.
this is just a smell. Like, get over it. I don't know.
Well, smell is a very powerful scent. I mean, a very powerful emotion, strongly one way or the other. And we do have a sense of smell. It's like how people, like animals, recognize their mother or baby. It's just like there is that smell that we associate, which is why I still have my mother's perfume. And if I'm really missing my mom, I'll spritz on her perfume. And then I feel like, my mom is around. And you see it a lot after someone passes or whatever, people will go smell their clothes to get that, that rush of that reminds us. So scent is amazing. And scent is very powerful.
Yeah. Well, in another angle, that's why we talk about setting up scent in your studio strategically.
Right.
Is the idea that like scent directly attaches with memory as well. And so some level of consistency of smell builds brand internally for people. And to as much as I agree with the like scent-free space concept around perfumes and like the weird plug-in smeller shit or whatever, there's a lot of studios that I've seen where they take it to the extreme of like, this is a smell-free space, but you can't actually make that the truth. Like, if you don't put a smell in your space, the risk that you run is that then something else will become the smell of the space. The people, the boots, the cleaning product that you use, whatever. And so we always talk about the idea, like in the extreme, you would walk into our last studio in wintertime and it's just full of boots because it's muddy and cold outside, and like they would stink. So if you didn't have a smell in the space, like that's the only other smell that's in the space, and people start to associate smell with environments as well. So somewhere in the mix of smell conversation here is the idea that like purposefully putting a consistent smell in your space that's pleasant, not overwhelming or super powerful, that's healthy to be breathing, to Bridget's point, that's actually, I think, really important.
Well, we've talked about this before, like, but what's the first thing people see, smell, that type of thing when they come into a new space? Yeah. And there are places like Sephora and, what's the
Aveda.
Ayurveda, also the hair salon. Ugh, name escapes me for a second. Sassoon, Lidl Sassoon, right? Where they had signature scents that whichever location you go into, it smells the same. And we talk about you can create.
They're copyrighted.
They're yeah.
And they're copyrighted scents, and they pump them in the ductwork.
Yep. And you could do that, maybe not pump it in the ductwork, but actually no studios have done that, is you can create your own signature scent. In fact, we used to have a coach on our team several years back, and she did that, and she sold it. She had it sold, so you could sell it. And she said during the pandemic, when they would call up, say, can I come by and get a bottle of the scent? So, because it would remind them. And when they were doing their Zoom classes, several of the clients would have that scent, so that would remind them of their studio. So that's how powerful scent can be. So yeah, I mean, to Josh's point, find one that's pleasing and doesn't trigger anybody's allergies or whatever, and keep it the same.
Yeah. My first studio that I did my training there, and my first teacher, it was her studio. And I was like in my early 20s. So it was just like my brain wasn't fully developed. And she used Mrs. Meyer's basil scent in the hand soap only. And still to this day, I love that smell, but also I need to be in the right emotional space to if I'm going to get that basil, because I know every time I smell it, I have goosebumps even talking about it. It's so evocative. Mm-hmm. And so just to say yes, your essential oils, but also think about what your hand soap smells like, because people wash their hands all the time. So anyway.
That's a good point. We matched our signature scent with our soap smell too. Mint was one of the ingredients in our signature scent. So then we only had mint soap, peppermint soap too. Yeah. I think that was by accident. We were just so smart. I don't know.
Yeah, you're just so smart, Josh. You're so
smell engineering. That's how you can solve it. Just, those air curtains that blow down in Costco, and they keep the heat from moving between the two environments? Just pump a bunch of scent in that, so when people walk in your studio, they just smell like you all of a sudden. Solves all these problems in one go.
Or you could have the decontamination. You walk through and
the decontamination spray. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Yep.
Well, that was interesting. Anything else?
I think that's it for today. All right. That's a wrap on the Weekly Roundup. You can listen live every Thursday morning right here on Facebook, or you can subscribe to Studio Cult TV on Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you're listening from. And we will see you next week.